What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports. If you're watching our college football channel, we continue with our tier power rankings, moving on to the ACC. So I'm going to put these teams into groups, into tiers, to kind of separate each group of teams without getting into a specific ranking, because like I mentioned in the SEC video and in the Big Ten video, it's hard to rank teams, especially in the preseason, when a lot of teams are so similar, and it gives the indication that you think one team's a lot better than another team, when a lot of times you think those teams are pretty much the same. So I kind of wanted to do these rankings to give you a good idea of what I think about the teams and where I think they stand and compare to each other. So we start with the first tier in the ACC. That's Clemson and that's Miami. And I do believe that these two teams are better, or in a tier above the other teams in the ACC. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this, especially with Miami. You know, I've heard a lot of people saying that Clemson's done. This team is not ever going to get back to what they were. They're going to lose 3 or 4 games this year. Miami is overrated. They've got a new coaching staff. I'm not buying that. I believe both of these teams are going to be a top 15 to top 10 teams, potentially playoff contender type teams. Clemson is going to be absolutely loaded on defense. Really, really good on that side of the ball. They'll miss Brent Venables, so it will be interesting to see how that all plays out. Offensively, they had so many injuries last year. I believe they're going to improve this year. I don't know if they're going to get back to being that elite team, but I still think that this team will be really good. And for Miami, I love what they've done in the transfer portal. I love what they've done with their coaching staff. This is a really good coaching staff they put together. Now, can it all come together in year one? That's the big question, but the talent's there. Tyler Van Dyke's a really good quarterback. I think he's really underrated. Mario Cristobal, can he get that offensive line going? That was maybe one of their big areas of weakness. But this team is, I'm telling you, they're talented, they're experienced, and they brought in some experienced, talented players from the transfer portal as well. This Miami team, I think, could be really dangerous, and I think these two teams do belong in that top tier. A lot of people think Wake Forest, NC State, maybe even Pitt should be in that same tier. I don't think so. When I look at the rosters, when I break it down for these teams, there are holes on all three teams. All three teams, I think, have potential, and they were all considered as dark horse playoff contenders for me, because if it all comes together, if they can take care of some of their weaknesses, these teams all have the capability of being really good this year. But I'm just not quite ready to put them in that top tier. I just think there are too many question marks on each team. Pittsburgh, you have to wonder about the wide receiver position for them after losing Jordan Addison. A big loss there. I love what they have, though, on the offensive line, the running back group. The defense looks really solid. Keaton Slovis, can he step in there and be a really good quarterback? If he can, and they can get some help at wide receiver, I think Pittsburgh could possibly get into that top tier. Wake Forest, it's going to be all about their defense. Offense is going to be really good. Maybe the best offense in the ACC, but is that defense going to be able to play at a higher level? Will depth catch up to them? I feel like just up front on the offensive line, the defensive line, they just can't match up with the top teams, and we saw that against Clemson last year when they were really outmatched. So that'll be interesting to watch there. NC State, a lot of people were really high on this team when you look at some of the players they have coming back, but there are some holes here on NC State's team as well on the defensive side of the ball. We'll see how it all plays out. They lost a really good offensive lineman as well. Very interested to see, which one of these teams turns out to be maybe a top 15 team, and maybe one of these teams finishes not even in the top 25. But I think right now these are the teams you would kind of group together in that second tier of the ACC. All right, this is the biggest tier of the ACC. It's tier number 3. This would not be the same tier as when we did the SEC and the Big Ten. They had their 2 big tiers. With the SEC had Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, all those teams, and the Big Ten had Penn State, Iowa, Nebraska. Those teams in the Big Ten, the SEC, that's a tier above this tier. So that kind of tells you where the SEC and the Big Ten, both conferences, are better than the ACC, because their big group of teams is in a tier a little bit below them. And we're talking about Boston College, Virginia Tech, Louisville, Florida State, Virginia, and North Carolina. One of these teams is going to emerge, I feel like, and be a surprise team, and going to be, I think, really good this year. And probably 2 or 3 of these teams are going to be pretty big disappointments, maybe not even getting to bowl games. Trying to figure that out, of course, is the hard part right now. Louisville is a team that I think might be the surprise team. I really like the experience they have coming back. Malik Cunningham at quarterback, I think, has a chance to be really good this year. That's the team I'm kind of looking at. And then Florida State. Florida State has a lot of potential. They will be really interesting to watch this year. North Carolina, I know they had a good recruiting class, but not a ton of experience. I think it comes back to the quarterback position for them. With Sam Howell gone, what are they going to get from that spot? Boston College, a lot of holes to fill, but they do have their quarterback returning. Virginia Tech, new head coach. Virginia, new head coach. We'll see how those two teams play out. But there is talent on the rosters for both of them. So like I said, one of these teams will probably emerge and be a top 25 team this year. My money's on Louisville or Florida State. But looking at them right now, I think these teams, these rosters are all very similar, and that's why I put them in here in tier number 3. Moving on to tier number 4, I've got Georgia Tech and Syracuse. Both of these teams were not great last year, and both teams don't have a ton of production coming back. They both have some pretty big losses from last year's team. So anytime you're not very good and then you lose some of your best players, you're obviously not expected to be really good the next year, and I think that's the case for both of these teams. I know some people are higher on both of them. I've seen some people maybe thinking Georgia Tech's a bowl team, maybe Syracuse is a 7-5 type team. I'm not really seeing that when I look at these two teams. Syracuse probably has a little bit more potential when you look at their roster, but I think both of these teams are going to struggle. I've got them in that 4th tier of the ACC. And then move on to the final tier. Tier number 5, the Duke Blue Devils will be right there all by themselves. This is the same tier as Vanderbilt out of the SEC, same tier as Illinois out of the Big Ten, the 2 conferences that we have done. And I'm just looking at this Duke team, and there's just not a lot to get excited about. You look at the roster, it's just not going to be very good. I just don't see it. I don't see it there for this Duke team. I think they're going to struggle. I think they're clearly the worst team in the ACC. Just like Vanderbilt, I think will clearly be the worst team in the SEC. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Duke will surprise me this year. When I look at the roster, I'm not seeing it right now. And I think they will be that team at the bottom of this conference. So like I said, we've done the SEC. We've done the Big Ten. Here is the ACC. We will also do the Big 12 and the Pac-12. If you're wondering about my predictions, I'm going to be starting those around the middle of June. I'm waiting for that Athlon preseason magazine to come out, because when I do my predictions, I like to have some comparison. If you've watched the videos in the past, where I would have, the FPI, Athlon, and maybe Vegas, look at some other predictions just to see where they line up with my predictions. So I'm going to wait on that magazine to come out. I know in previous years I've done them right after Memorial Day. I will be waiting a little bit longer, but my simulations, our college football simulations for the 2022 season, those will be starting on the Tuesday after Memorial Day. I'll have a video explaining all that here very soon. That will be over on the gaming channel. So if you like the simulations, make sure you are subscribed to that channel. Give me your thoughts on the ACC down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.